The Right People, a supply chain career, is a video series presenting different aspects of a career in health supply chains. Today, we ask some tough questions. Is supply chain management a male-dominated field? How many women are there working in it? Is it a welcoming place for women? What barriers and challenges do young women face? In this video, we will be talking with some veterans from the field, including Carolyn Hart, JSI, Deborah Dull, Circular Supply Chain Network, Jenny Froome, SAPEX, Pam Steele, Pamela Steele Associates, Paul Lalvani, Empower School of Health, Nuron Idris, JS1 Global Office, Yasmin Chandani, InSupply Health Limited. Women in supply chain management. Is there a place for me?
Women make up 37% of the supply chain workforce, far less than half, that's globally, and only 13 or 14% of the executive suite roles in supply chain management. So I say it would be great to have more women in this field, and particularly in the halls of power. I also think it's really important to think of women in the consumer goods marketplace, where women spend 73% of what's spent in consumer goods.
It is no secret that supply chain management has been a traditionally male-dominated field for a long time. But why?
My personal hypothesis, which I've never actually tried to confirm, is that we are male-dominated purely because many of our leaders today grew up in operations, driving a truck, moving boxes, factory floor, warehouse floor, where lifting over 50 pounds was a thing done routinely. And the way my version of the history of gender in supply chain is that all of those folks then grew up through the ranks and then became executives, and that used to be the career progression.
The vision of a woman truck driver perhaps is something that is not stereotypically what we imagine. And in some instances, from a security point of view, there are big discussions going on, certainly in South Africa, regarding the desirability of women entering that sector of the supply chain profession. But there are so many areas, and it's an absolutely brilliant profession for women, and more women are getting into the profession.
In addition to heavy physical labor, other demands like travel have made it harder for women to join in, let alone lead, in this field, as they seek to balance career with childcare and other responsibilities.
It's easy for a man to say, I'm going for a field work and pack their bag and leave, but if I'm a woman and I want to also do the same to go and save lives, when I see pictures on TV about a disaster, I first have to think of, who will look after my children.
I have a little baby right now, he's 3. And one of the things that I've noticed that's also a challenge as a woman working in supply chain or working, I think, in any field, is that at some point in your life you would need to take a break to go home and have children or do whatever it is that you want to do. And I think for me at one point that was a bit of a challenge, really finding the right balance, allowing myself to have enough time to become a mother, and also fulfilling my responsibilities at the time as a manager.
With online data management on the rise, virtual meetings becoming the norm, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, and more companies making allowances for childcare, supply chain management is steadily becoming a more welcoming environment for women.
My prediction is we'll see a continuously increasing number of women. Really, there's no other reason. It's not that men are better at supply chain. I think it just came from a physical labor background.
Over the course of almost 12 years, we've trained about 10,000 people from more than 80 countries in 5 different languages. And when we looked at the numbers, on average, the women in supply chain across all these countries were between 20 to 25%. And this is not surprising because we know that there are fewer women than there are men in this space. But when we dissected the data a bit more, what we noticed was the younger generation, people in their 30s, those numbers looked rather different. There we started to see about 40% women relative to the overall average.
So why is it important for more women to join supply chain management? How can they enrich and improve things? Do they make a unique contribution?
Importance of women in supply chain, or importance of women in public health, or the importance of women in any sector is fundamental because they bring an ability to look at things from a totally different perspective. The joint teams with more diversity sometimes may take more time to reach consensus or a direction. The output and the results are far better.
Women are the largest consumers of healthcare services for themselves and their families. As such, they have experienced and understand the consequences of supply chain difficulties.
In a public health environment, I can tell you that women tend to spend more time in health clinic corridors. They are the ones who go there for prenatal, for postnatal. They are the ones who will take their children for vaccination. They'll take their mothers-in-law, fathers-in-law, their husbands. So they understand the problem of stockout better than anyone else. So I have this sort of notion that women would do much better in ensuring stockout problem is reduced because they know how it impacts them whenever they visit the health clinics here.
But how welcome do women feel in the workforce? Some women feel they have to prove themselves a bit more than their male counterparts.
You know, there's been times in my career that credit of my work is given to a male colleague, and that's happened before. It doesn't happen very often that the other way around happens.
Because I was the only woman, I was forced to put a little bit more effort, to voice up a little bit more, to speak with a little bit more surety.
And yet, many believe there's a lot of hope, especially in health development supply chains.
I think that there is actually less gender bias in supply chains for global health than there may be for commercial supply chains, for example. There were a lot of very strong, smart female supply chain colleagues and mentors that I worked with. And the men were also smart as well, but I didn't lack for any role models as female supply chain leaders.
In this video, we have covered some important topics to remember. Supply chain management has been a male-dominated field, but that is changing as more women enter the profession. Women bring unique perspectives and experiences that are vital to making supply chains work well for everyone they serve. Women interact the most with health systems and humanitarian systems, and they bear the brunt when supply chains fail. They bring an intuitive understanding of the importance of good supply chains. To learn more about how you can get started in a career in supply chains, visit Laptop, the Logistics and Procurement Training Opportunities platform, to find over 650 learning opportunities, from in-person and online training short courses to university supply chain programs and professional certification courses. Find us at rhsupplies.org/laptop.